Okay, is there any discussion? If not, we'll now move into a vote to break Senate rules to review resolution number 27. All those in favor? Opposed? Or abstaining? Okay, the motion passes. And we're now reviewing resolution number 27 concerning the approval of the 2022 Tiger Pride Day legislative slate. Okay, Chief of Staff Ambush.
Hello, happy Tiger Tuesday, everyone. So for anyone wondering what is Tiger Pride Day is our annual lobbying day. It is happening February 21st, if I think I'm correct. It's on President's Day, and I'm very themely. And basically we talked to several delegates and senators about legislation that we as the SGA feel like is very important for the Maryland Assembly to pass. So I presented you all with about, I think, 11 bills. We have to cut this down to 5 and 6, and at least 2 of those bills need to be Senate bills. There's some House bills that have a Senate bill on the other side. That's perfectly fine, but we do need bills for when we talk to the senators. I know most of them are House bills. The reason why we cut it down to 5 or 6, preferably 5, but 6 we can push, is because we don't have a lot of time to talk to these people. We have about 45 minutes, which is not a lot of time. So it's really, really important for our Tiger Pride Day agenda to be small, but very powerful, very strong. And I want to remind you all that this will be SGA's official legislative agenda. So this is very important. We publicize it, so this needs to represent the entire student body. Lastly, I really want to emphasize that this is the Senate's choice. So please don't let anyone sway you too much. But yeah. All right, are there any questions? Yes. Yeah, please. Thank you.
Sorry if this is a little like a silly question, but I noticed on the majority of them are House bills.
Yes.
And you said we need Senate bills, but like there's only one.
There's one Senate bill and then 4 House bills that have a Senate side. It's not highlighted in blue, but if you look in parentheses, some say like Senate Bill 00, a couple numbers. Oh, okay. How do you want to do this? Should we just go one by one? Okay.
Go ahead.
Just to make like a quick note for everybody, the bills that do have like House bills and Senate bills are numbers 3, 4, 8, and 10, and then there is number 12 that has just Senate. So if anybody would like to mark those, just keep those in mind.
Yeah. All right, so I'm just gonna go one by one. We're not gonna eliminate until the end. I'm just gonna kind of give a really brief overview of what each bill is. So H Bill 001 is a constitutional amendment that would basically make it like if you're an adult, you're allowed to smoke cannabis. It's a very, very simple bill. House Bill 0025 is the REAP Act. Basically, this would help expand education to incarcerated people. The reason why I picked that bill is I know several of us are really interested in internment justice and things like that. So I thought that would be an interesting bill. House Bill 0087 and Senate Bill 0050. Basically, this makes it so if you went to the Peace Corps and you come back, you're eligible for in-state tuition. Again, expanding like who would be able to get cheaper education. House Bill 0100 is the Sustainable Maryland Program Fund. Basically, what this would be is that in the annual budget, they will have to set aside a certain amount of funds for sustainable purposes, and that's for the state budget. House Bill 0111, basically this makes it so if anyone's trying to like collect on your private loans, they have to provide more documentation to the court judge. This makes it harder for like scammers to come in and try to like take advantage of your private loans. House Bill 0530 is a study to look into the disparities between PWIs and HBCUs in USM, and if independence is if the HBCUs go and leave USM, if that's an option they should take. It's just a study, it's not something final. House Bill 0159 is the Economic Justice and Racial Reconciliation Act. Basically, this is a study to look into reparations. House Bill 0132 is the Student Horizon Database and Scorecard, or the Right to Know Act of 2022. Basically, this makes it so that every higher ed institution has to provide certain facts to all students so that students know when they're applying to these schools, like what they're getting into. House Bill 0164 will give more rights to pregnant students about their decision, whether they want to take a leave of absence or not. Like the university can't force that, it'll be up to the student. House Bill 0171 is the Climate Crisis and Environmental Justice Act. Basically, this expands environmental justice across the state. House Bill 0255 is the Maryland Internship Opportunities Program. Basically, this gives tax credits and helps create internships across the state. Senate Bill 0152 makes it so that there's no punitive measures if you want your transcript. So for example, if you fail to pay back the school, they can't withhold the transcript from you. And then lastly, House Bill 0141 is the equity and transportation sector. So basically, when there's new transportation projects, there has to be an equity survey taken to see how these transportation projects will impact different communities. So yeah. Any questions on those, or y'all want to start cutting or debating?
Director Johnstone.
My apologies. I also introduced two bills, I believe, into the session. If we could just quickly go over those. By any chance? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So one is, I don't know the number off the top of my head. It is simply just the Future Act. Oh, thank you. All right, so it is Senate Bill 0471, the Future Act. This would require that all public USM schools have to be carbon neutral by 2035. It would also establish a sustainability fund. So any student that is impacted by climate change can use that fund for scholarships. And it also establishes for any school under the USM system that doesn't have an Office of Sustainability, it establishes one. And someone has to report then to the president and vice president of the University System of Maryland. We also have HB 0596. This is the Maryland Environmental Human Rights Amendment. Basically, it guarantees that, well, it makes an amendment to the Maryland Constitution, guaranteeing that every person living within it has rights to clean water, clean air, clean food, and a clean environment. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any more? Yes, Vice President Triscott.
Just as a note, you will have to formally make a recommendation to add either of these bills. I would really encourage if we have two separate discussions on each bill, because this does put our number up to 15. So just, that'll be kind of part of this discussion. If you'd like to start off with a formal recommendation to add one, or if anybody would like to have discussion on striking a bill, that's already on the agenda, or not on the agenda, excuse me, on resolution number 27.
Do you wish to make the recommendation now? Or
Actually, you think you can go first, or Director.
Director Edwards?
Five or six. Six would be max.
Remind me of Rodriguez, thank you.
Can we get an exact amount of how many Senate bills and how many House bills we need?
Well, we need 5 or 6 bills in total, and at least 2 of those needs to be Senate bills. That's pretty much it.
27.
To make the process easier, I recommend someone pick a bill that you don't want on our agenda. Is there like any bill where you're like, we can comfortably like cut this?
Senator Raddick.
So one of the bills that I think is fine, but not like of most importance is HB 025, or wait, no, not that one. Excuse me. Is the, where is it? 0255, the Maryland Internship Opportunities Program, creation and income tax credit. You know, I think it's a great idea, and I think it's fun, but I think we should prioritize certain other things. In particular, in my opinion, the historically Black colleges and universities, disparities within independence from the university system of Maryland, which has historically had problems. So I think that one should be my personal focus, and not my personal, but like our focus.
Do you want to make a motion to strike and then we'll discuss it, like,
I make a motion to strike HB 0255.
okay, is there a second? Senator Hayes? Okay, are there any discussion? If, yes, Director Eagle?
I can agree with that. I think that, the bill that you have today is the American Black College and University bill. She put that into the just the study, while the other bill, HB 0255, this bill, it actually, furthers like opportunity programs and all that stuff for Maryland students to have internship. So I think the second bill actually does more for us than the study. It's only the study, it's not actually increasing funds or anything like that.
Okay, Director Deanna?
Yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying. Like, I feel like there are other things that we could strike off of this list other than the Maryland internship opportunity program, especially since we're all college students and a lot of us need these opportunities, and this is like a program where like all these are like important, but this is like a program that the students do need, and it's going to give them the opportunity to like see what types of like careers and like any other things that are out there. So I feel like
Director Dodson?
I agree with both, Director Gemma and Diego said. Also looking at the bill, it is for humanity-based, businesses. And like, so that includes like history, like anthropology, kind of fields that are kind of underfunded. So by granting this tax credit to those businesses, super, like, we would have to, go for it, because it's not like a finance internship. So benefit most humanities.
Director Edwards? No, we're currently on the motion to strike Bill HB 0255. So we haven't voted on that motion yet. Yes, Justice, remind me? Adenica? Okay.
I agree with Senator Maddox and I actually most of the strike because the 800530 is a study which is thought to benefit future bills and future acts and this one is also back colleges and but I agree with Senator Maddox.
Does anyone else wish to add to the conversation we're currently having on this motion? If not, so now Director Edwards.
So, HB 0255, I think that we should not strike that away, especially considering that HB 0520 is just a study, like that's just research. So I think that we should keep the 0255 because that can actually, look at us in the future, something.
Senator Maddox.
I personally think that the historically Black colleges and universities in the USM system have been historically underfunded and underperformed because of that underfunding. And I think a study is a great first step into fixing these problems and into even shedding some light on these problems. So I think that we should please that one and strike the 0255.
Point of clarification, during this conversation, center the conversation on why you want or don't want House Bill 0255 and not why you want House Bill 0530, because they're not mutually exclusive. So let's center the conversation on why you do or do not like the current motion, and then we'll get to that one later, okay? Thank you for that clarification.
Just to reiterate President DeVoe's point, there are going to be 6 bills or 5 bills, depending on what the Senate decides. I would agree with President DeVoe. I would highly discourage that we are centering conversation only around 2 bills, just because we do have 15 on the floor, or potentially 15. At the moment, we have 13. So I would just continue to keep that in mind through this conversation.
Does anyone else wish to add to this current motion on the floor before we vote on it? Okay, if President DeVoe.
I just want to ask, I heard the negative, but is anyone in the affirmative? And if you are, please raise that viewpoint as well, just for the good of the order, if you're in favor of the motion.
And this is a motion to strike Bill HB 0255, correct? Okay. Last minute comments, concerns. Senator Maddox.
I just, for humanities internship, I'm not sure that there's a lack of them in the area. It's nice to have more or more incentive to have them. But I'm not sure that there's like, I feel like there's not a lack of these internships. So I feel like this bill, while it's nice, I feel like it shouldn't be prioritized.
Director DMA.
I think it depends. You have to look at this from different perspectives. It depends on what type of path you're on, like, what Director Maxton said earlier, like a lot of communities, majors lack these internships and they lack the funding, and also not a lot of people have access to internships or are able to have internships because of how hard it is to get them and to sustain yourself while having internships. So having programs like this helps speed it out, and it just like raises also the awareness of why these internships would be available to all students.
Yes, Director Ramos.
To piggyback off what you just said, when we are deciding these 5 bills, we also have to represent the housing community as a whole. And I feel like when I think of it in that aspect, they would actually want to keep this bill. Because I think a lot of housing students, one of the things they struggle the most with is getting internships, especially recently with the pandemic. So that's why I personally think we should keep this bill on the table for now at least.
Senator Hayes.
I also want to point out too, sometimes with humanity majors, internships are hard to get undergrad just because of the qualifications you might need. So typically, people who are humanity majors usually get internships in graduate schools. So it's just depending on the major. I know sometimes you're not qualified enough to get an internship during your undergrad years.
Chief of Staff, no? Okay. Director Claxton.
I also just want to stress to everyone that these will be paid internships. And that's why a lot of students do not get internships simply because they can't afford to take time to not be paid for their work. So I can stress that these are paid internships.
Chief Justice Arturo Olson.
If that is, I believe Director Paxton, but if these are paid internships, I feel like that's even more important to have this be a bill that Housing pushes to the legislature, to the Maryland legislative branch, because a lot of humanities students, like Director Paxton said, don't have paid internships. I know I've looked for paid internships, and there's very few for undergrad students in humanities.
Last minute comments before we vote. Okay, if not, we'll now move into a vote to strike Bill HB 0255. All those in favor to strike the bill? Opposed? Or abstaining? With that, the motion fails. Yeah, with that, the motion fails. Yes, Vice President Roscoe.
I'm gonna make a recommendation to strike the first bill, HB
hold on.
0001, just because I feel as though it does pertain to the greater Maryland area. However, typically with those bills that are numbered first, they are a very high priority for the legislator. So Tiger Pride Day might be a better platform for us to support some of these other bills. It doesn't necessarily mean that the bill will get passed through the legislator. I do want to throw that out there. But I think that there are other bills on here that might pertain a little bit more to students in terms of helping them with their education and things along those lines. So I'm making that recommendation.
Advisors right now?
Just a quick question for clarification. If you just voted to not strike the bill, does it automatically default to being approved? So it has to be approved, and just questioning. that's all.
The motion just failed. So
Right.
it's still, it hasn't been voted on to be kept onto the slate yet.
Okay.
And we won't, none of this will be officially improved until we vote on the entire resolution as a whole.
Okay.
And we have to.
Director Johnstone?
I think it's incredibly important that we deny this vote. I think that for a long time, campus has been too criminalized, especially against Black and brown folks. And I think we need to make sure that this bill passes no matter what. I understand your point with it being like, obviously, number one, so it's up there, but you know, there's still the chance, and we don't want to be like, shoot, we missed our shot, now more Black people are getting thrown in a prison industrial complex because we didn't.
Vice President Triscotta?
I do want to make this very clear. I am not at all saying that we should not advocate for this bill. I am not at all saying that this is not a bill that needs to be supported by Towson, by the community. There are very detrimental impacts, as Director Johnstone said, in regards to cannabis and racial discrimination. However, I think that if it is something that we would like to push, it might be better to have maybe its own specific event or its own specific outlet to support it, and to really dive into why we want it supported and the background and history of it, that just might not be able to get as translated in those short meetings that people have with different delegates. So I do want to make it very clear that when I made those recommendations, I'm not at all saying that it is an inappropriate bill to have on here or anything like that. But I also would like to note that if we are moving into discussion on this, I did make a formal recommendation, so someone would either have to accept and then we can start discussion, or nobody can accept it and then the motion would die.
Okay, does anyone accept the recommendation Vice President Triscotta made? Senator Mackey?
I accept.
Okay, is there a second? Senator Evelyn? Okay, is there any discussion on the current motion? Director Paxton?
Yeah, so I think we should strike this bill as well. Personally, I don't think this bill goes far enough. Yes, it does legalize weed for people 21 and over, but it doesn't take the step to, give reparations to people who already have been arrested and who are sitting in jail because of marijuana possession. So
Senator Mackey?
I mean, regardless, if it does become legal, it's only to a certain extent, because if you have like a large amount, you're still gonna get charged with something. So, I mean, I feel like it's not gonna stop anybody from doing it if it gets passed or not. So like, I don't think any like further promotion, like if it happens, but I don't think we need to promote it because it's not gonna stop anybody from using a small amount.
Thank you. Any more comments on this resolution and this motion before we vote on it? Okay, if not, we'll now vote to approve the motion the recommendation that Vice President Triscotta made, which was to strike this bill. All those in favor? Opposed? Or abstaining? I believe that was 3 in favor and 2 opposed. With that. No, not voting, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, with that, the motion I believe still passes, correct me if I'm wrong? Okay, great. So this bill will be strike. Okay, let's keep the conversation going. Chief of Staff Ambush.
Hi, I recommend that we strike H Bill 0087. That's the second one, which is to return the Peace Corps volunteers get in-state tuition. The reason why I'm recommending this, they're great people. We should really support them. But if we do need to cut this down, and I think that bill may be the bill that I think impacts us the least most indirectly. And it targets a very small and niche group of individuals that I don't know if the Towson population really caters to that much.
Does anyone accept that recommendation? Senator Washington Merritt? Okay, is there a second? Senator Maddox? Okay, is there any discussion on the recommendation to strike Bill HB 0087? Vice President Truskowska.
Sorry for talking so much, y'all. Tell me to just be quiet. But, just like my nerves got, I get excited about this. But, I agree with Chief of Staff Ambush. I think that it is a very important bill. I think that we all are in agreement that all of these bills are amazing, and if we could talk about all of them, we would. But I do think that for Towson specifically, it is such a small group that we kind of see coming through. That it may be better to prioritize other bills in terms of the day of Tiger Pride Day. And again, just to reiterate, any of these bills that do not get onto the legislative slate for Tiger Pride Day, please, I encourage everybody to do follow-ups, letter writing campaigns, everything. These bills getting taken off of this does not mean that they will not still be supported by Towson University or cannot be supported in other ways. So me personally, I think that might be a better thing to take off of this legislative slate and maybe have a different type of event where Peace Corps volunteers can come in and discuss why they want to support this bill, have letter writing, something along those lines, as opposed to having it on the specific agenda of the day.
More discussion on this recommendation? Okay, seeing that there is none, we'll now move into a vote to strike Bill HB 0087. All those in favor? Opposed? Or abstaining? Okay, with that, the motion passes and Bill HB 007 has been right off the agenda. Struck.
No. I never know. No, I never know. Like, I think
Director
it's.
Johnstone.
I would like to make a formal recommendation to add those bills to our agenda.
Okay, does anyone accept that recommendation? You have to accept. Okay, Senator Mackey. Okay, is there a second? Senator Washington Merritt. Okay, is there any discussion on this recommendation to add the 2 bills? Senator Maddox.
I think it's like Kate said earlier, I think it'd be a better idea to add each one individually because personally, I value one over the other and we need to cut these down. So, if we can get one, if we can, not add 2 rather than add 1.
Staff English.
I agree. Also, if we do vote to add the 2, one, I still support adding them individually, but if we do add them both, that would mean there are 4 environmental bills. I mean, if our Tiger Pride Day agenda was, 4 out of 5/6 were environmental bills, I think that'd be great. But I do think this could be a chance for us to maybe swap a couple. So if the 2 environmental bills Jaden put in are stronger than the 2 environmental bills that are on this list, like I think future motions could consider maybe cutting some of the weaker ones.
Director Johnstone.
I would like to retract my, motion.
Thank you. We'll keep the conversation going. Director Johnston.
I'm sorry, think to the idea of it, or speak second. So I'd like to add one bill and then swap one bill. I would like to swap the Future Act with the HB 0100 Sustainable Maryland Program Fund. That way we're only adding one environmental bill to our, legislative slate.
Okay, does anyone accept that recommendation? Senator Markey.
Right, so,
Okay, is there a second? Senator Washington Miller. Is there any discussion on the recommendation made by Director Johnstone, Senator Hayes?
Which bill are we swapping out it for?
These,
No, I'm saying which one did he want? He wanted to swap one
HB
on here.
0100.
can you repeat the
Point of order.
motion for clarification, please, Director Johnstone?
Exercise, my apologies. So I would like to swap out HB 0100, the Sustainable Maryland Program Fund for Senate Bill 0471, which is the Future Act. And then I would like to add House Bill 0526, I believe, 0596, which is the Maryland Environmental Human Rights Amendment. And I can clarify more.
Was that better? Okay. Senator Maddox.
I'm sorry, I'm a bit confused, but I thought Jaden last time said that we were just swapping House Bill 0152 with SB 0471. I didn't think it was the House Bill 0595.
Can you clarify that, Director Johnstone?
Yeah, sorry if I wasn't speaking up clear enough or anything, but I originally started off with saying that I wanted to add the Maryland Environmental Human Rights Amendment and swap out the Future Act with SB 00, or my apologies, House Bill 0100. Can I take this?
Number 4.
Okay, so, okay, it makes sense. Thank you. Does that clarify things for everybody? Chief Justice Hurtado Olson.
I just want to make sure I understand this. So functionally, we are striking House Bill 0100
Point
and
of
then
order.
putting the other two in place.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
So functionally, we're striking House Bill 0100 and adding the other two bills that Jaden recommended. Okay.
Okay, where were we in the conversation? Director Johnson, did you want to add anything else?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So just to explain my point a little bit, I think HB 0100 is a great bill. However, with the Future Act, it already kind of establishes a bit of money to be put on the side for students specifically. And as we are the Towson Student Government Association, I think that would best help our students, many of which live in communities that are impacted by climate change. And the Environmental Human Rights Amendment, I think would be a great addition to our agenda, since it basically anyone who isn't living in a clean environment, including on college campuses, can sue the state and make those changes happen. My mind instantly goes towards our friends at Morgan State last fall when they figured out that there was mold in their apartments, when they weren't living in a clean environment, and the school wasn't doing anything about it. And this would give them an avenue to do something about it.
Do you mind one more time to please restate the motion so I can the recommendation so I can get it down?
Of course. Yeah, so I guess in the sense of it being like a striking and adding something, it
Okay,
would be to strike House Bill 0100, which is a Sustainable Maryland Program Fund. And then to add in both, Senate Bill 0471, which is the Future Act, and the House Bill 0596, which is the Maryland Environmental Human Rights Amendment.
okay, that makes more sense.
Sorry, I should have clarified more.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, Senator Maddox.
This is a question for Jaden, but do you know how many USN schools don't have a head officer or head officer of sustainability?
I know that there are a few, I believe Frostburg doesn't have one. The Future Act as a whole also involves some other like non-USM schools, such as like St. Mary's. They don't have one. And one other school that I can't remember off the top of my head. And this would just help to establish that the schools that don't have them do. I don't remember all of them, unfortunately. My apologies.
Did that answer your question? Okay, Director Paxton, did you have something to add?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm like kind of against this motion, because great bills over here, but, and I agree with, you know, overall the striking the Sustainable Maryland Program Fund, simply because HB 0171, the Climate Crisis and Environmental Justice Act, it kind of does all of this, you know, more vague way, but it does all this, like it requires the state to greenhouse gas emissions, and it also creates a fund, like multiple different funds. So I think HB 0171 does all of it without having to have three different things.
Okay, any more discussion? Director Johnstone?
Yeah, sorry. If I could just sort of elaborate more of the differences between the two bills. While the Environmental Justice or Climate Crisis and Environmental Justice Act does create funds, and I highly support it. The Future Act establishes scholarships, I should have stated. It establishes a fund that can only be used for scholarships for students. And it also establishes, you know, an Office of Sustainability if the schools would have it. And it confirms that the heads of those Offices of Sustainability have to meet with the USM president and vice president. So just to clarify some of the distinctions between the two bills and why I think that they are necessary to add to the agenda.
Director Rodriguez?
See, if we have a bill House Bill 0171 that can cover both those bills, I think it's more beneficial considering that those two bills will most likely not both pass. If we have two bills that do one, I believe it'll be a better possibility that something will get done.
Chief of Staff English?
Out of all the bills being talked about in this motion, I think keeping the constitutional amendment, House Bill 596, I think is actually the most important since it's a constitutional amendment and it will go into the Maryland state constitution. It gives legal precedent that any person is allowed to sue if they feel that their constitutional right to be free from like the climate disaster is threatened. So I think the constitutional amendment, while doesn't impact in terms of finance, I think it gives people the constitutional right basically to sue, which is very, very important, especially people who live near an incinerator, such as the one in Prince George's County or the one in Baltimore City, and things like that and other toxic waste around the state. So.
Last comment before we proceed to move on from this conversation. Yes, Director Johnstone.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I don't know why my voice keeps doing that. I would just like to, clarify that I do agree that the Climate Crisis and Environmental Justice Act is important, but we're not really just striking that. We're instead striking the Sustainable Maryland Program Fund in favor of those two bills. Just to clarify.
Thank you for that clarification. Yes, we're currently discussing the recommendation that Director Johnstone made. So we haven't voted on it yet, but we're discussing. Yes, Justice Adenuga.
I just have a question. Exactly why we're striking House Bill 0100, specifically that bill and not a different one?
Dr. Johnstone.
Yeah, so it's a good bill and it establishes a nice fund that we can use, or not that we can use, but that cities and towns can use. However, the Future Act also establishes a fund that that has to be used for scholarships for students impacted by climate change. And that could be everything from like the Bresco incinerator that Olivier brought up. It could be like rising sea levels, anything of the sort. So I think it just helps out students more than the other bill.
I want to vote.
I'm not gonna call the question, but I'm going to strongly suggest that we move on this recommendation so we don't continue to go in circles, unless anyone feels anything they want to add at this moment. But that would be my like, informal recommendation. Yes. Absolutely. So grab the mic over there.
Hello. So basically, I think that this motion should be approved because these three bills are like similar and they have some overlap, but they're reinforcing one another. Like you're starting off with like a vague concept and then we're adding two more things that would reinforce that and explain how it works and make it more useful. Like there's all sorts of stuff up there, but it's all over the place. It's something over here, something over there. You're concentrating a few of your bills into one area so that it's easier and it's going to work better because it's more efficient because they're reinforcing one another.
President DeVault.
May I ask a question while you're still at the mic? So what would you like us to do?
I think that the motion ought to be passed and that 0100 should be striked and that these two new bills should be added.
Thank you.
Director Edward.
We have one bill focusing on education, one bill focusing on research, one bill focusing on
Any further comments before we vote on this recommendation? Yes, you may.
I would like to formally support the Jaden's motion to go with the Future Act instead of HB 0100. As I think that in the form of our government, I think obscurity and ambiguity tends to really bother politicians for some reason. So I think if we narrow it down a little bit, it has more likelihood to pass. Especially considering this is a bill that directly affects students. And I think that if we as a university and an institution of higher education were to pass it, I think it's really sending a message.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Stroskowska.
Thank you. I just wanted to make it known that this motion will be for all of those changes. So if anything occurs and a senator or anyone else would like to recommend just one change or anything like that, we can do so. But I would highly recommend that we vote on this as we would be adding another bill to the agenda and there are still several bills to discuss. So I would highly recommend that we kind of continue forward with this.
Justice identified. Can we get a mic, please? Thank you.
I think we should just add the MD Environmental Human Rights Amendment instead of the Future Act and the HB 0100, because now in the future we'll cover everything that's said in the Future Act and in the HB 0100. It may not be more specific, but because it's more broad, it covers a lot more range. And it can provide a lot more support to any argument or point you may make in the future.
Thank you. President DeVault.
I'll be brief. Thank you so much for the discussion so far. So I do want to say during I don't know the format, so correct me if I'm wrong, Chief of Staff Ambush. So, sorry. So if they're in the meeting and we're supporting this bill,
Yeah.
they're allowed to say, by the way, these other bills are cool.
Yes, but you can't say it's the SJ's position. Like if there's time, like towards the end, you can like bring them up, but you have to bring them up as like your own person.
Right. I also did want to add, I don't, kind of off of what Director Edwards was touching on, we only have so many bills, and us picking half of the bills on a specific issue is saying that the stance of the SGA is saying that a majority, the largest issues for Towson's students are X. By doing that, just purely based off of like the numbers on how many bills we can use. So I would just be mindful of that. And that's not because I'm not in favor of sustainability, of course. But I'm saying in regards to any issue. So I would encourage you all to represent a diverse range of issues, but I'm gonna lean out of this discussion as much as possible.
Senator Hayes.
I'll be clarification. If these two bills are added, we still have to vote on the bills as well, whether we're gonna keep or strike, right?
Vice President Trzaskowski.
So if this is added, none of these bills are safe until we vote on the resolution as a whole. So what that would do is it would just effectively take out bill number, I'm just gonna use the numbers on the left-hand side. It would effectively take out bill number 4 that's already on there, and just replace that with the first one on the new page, and then it would add the other one on as well. But that does not mean that there's.
Senator Mackey,
Call the motion.
call to question.
Question.
Okay, now moving to a vote to accept this recommendation and make the swap and add the second legislation onto the agenda. All those in favor? Is there something wrong? Justice, I thought. I'm sorry. Okay, is there a second? Senator Maddox? Thank you. Okay, we'll now vote on the recommendation as previously said. All those in favor? Opposed? Or abstaining? That the motion passes and the recommendation passes, so the bill will be swapped with number 4 and the other one will be added onto the legislative agenda. Okay. Keep the conversation going. Is there any discussion? I did not speak that far. Director Sato? Assistant Director Sato.
I don't know if we're only striking, but I don't know what I'm supposed to say. Sorry. I want HB 0164 to be one of the 5 or 6 that we bring to Tiger Day. To Marty.
Are you making a formal recommendation to?
I don't know what I'm supposed to say though.
Okay, you can just say I recommend that.
Oh, I recommend that we take House Bill 0164 to Tiger Day lobby.
Okay, does anyone accept that recommendation? Senator Hayes? Is there a second? Senator Maddox?
A second.
Okay, great. Is there any discussion on the recommendation that was just made? Senator Washington.
Can you repeat the recommendation again, please?
I'm just recommending that this is one of the 5 or 6 that we take to Tiger Day, not striking, but actually taking.
President Dulu?
Point of clarification, so let's approach this bill kind of like a confirmation bill. So say that there's like a list of directors that we're confirming. We don't have to vote to keep it, but it stays until we vote on the whole bill. So we don't necessarily have to vote. It's also a slippery slope. So you can eliminate, but it would just kind of eat up time. It's safe unless somebody takes it out. And then when we vote at the end of the bill, then it's whatever is remaining. We're in favor of all these bill candidates. Does that make sense? Okay.
Okay, so with that being said, do you wish to retract your recommendation?
Yeah, I wish we retracted.
Okay. You can recommend that we discuss it, if you would like it to actually, I guess, stay on the agenda, if that's what you wish to do.
Yeah,
sure, we can discuss it. I mean, yes, I would like to discuss it. Okay, so you can make the recommendation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay, I recommend that we just House Bill 0164. Okay, which is number 9, correct? Yes, number 9. Okay. Does anyone accept that recommendation? Senator Maddox,
I accept that recommendation.
is there a second? Senator Egan? Okay, is there any discussion on Bill HB 0164, which is number 9? Chief of Staff Ambush?
Just to explain this bill a bit further for anyone wondering, basically this bill will make it that, I'm looking at the wrong bill right now. Sorry, this bill will make it so that an institution of higher education cannot force a pregnant student from taking a leave of absence to withdraw or limit studies. And it makes it so that if a student does become pregnant and then leave, they can still come back in good standing at the university. So basically protect students who are pregnant.
Senator Egan?
I guess I just thought, I think this bill is just really important because we want to have like a diverse topics or bills that we're going to talk about. Also, we want to have like an inclusive community as housing, and I think sometimes pregnant people might feel like, oh, I'm backed into a corner, I don't have any options, and I think this creates the Thanks. I think this just gives students the chance to have more options and not to feel like they're backed into a corner and feel like, oh, I have to make certain decisions or limit my education. And I think being a university, our whole goal in SGA is to promote education and promote a safe space for students to learn.
Point of order, there really should not be any other side conversations happening. Thank you.
Was that everything?
Oh, and also, I think, I don't know if Chief of Staff Ambush said this, but it also lets the non-birth parent have the ability to take like leave if they want to. And usually that doesn't happen for people. So I think that's also really important.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to say anything further? Director Gamma?
Also, I wanted to add, I'm for this bill. I wanted to add that not only is there like, points about the leave of absence, but also like accommodation when it comes to, oh, sorry. So there's also like points about accommodations when it comes to academics, so they're able to get accommodations for their professors and also private lactation spaces. And I feel as if like, even though there's some schools that like have started this idea, a lot of schools don't have these spaces for students that are pregnant. So I feel as if this bill encompasses a lot of things that can not only impact students that are pregnant, but can help like pregnancy discrimination, because it definitely is real, especially for students of color. So I definitely support it.
Any more discussion on this bill? Justice Neal? Did I say right? McNeil?
All right. I'm for this bill, but I had a question. By saying good standing, do you mean like, does that include financially as well?
Oh.
You would like to answer that question? I'm not sure. Are you addressing someone as like specific?
Oh, chief staff.
Okay, Chief Staff Ambush.
I'm not seeing that the bill necessarily talks about in terms of financial aid, and most of those financial aid is private or federal, which wouldn't be covered by this bill. What they mean by good standing is in the sense of like grades, like you're not going to take a hit, like your GPA is going to be fine, like all that.
Also, because I know like some people, they get an incomplete if they can't finish their their classes. So I'm wondering if like that's gonna be for the pregnancies as well.
Yeah, Chief Staff.
Yes, the bill says that each university has to create a policy for pregnant students.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any more discussion on this bill? If not, we can move on to see if there are other bills that you all wish to strike from the agenda. Chief of Staff Ambush.
Hi, I recommend that we strike, I lost it. Oh, we strike each bill 0132/Senate Bill 0498. Basically, this will require that all public universities, high schools, vacational schools, present certain information, and for that information to not only be located on the Department of Education's website, but also handed out to every single graduating senior. Things that this include is like annual cost of a school, the graduation rate, the average starting salary for graduates of that school, the diversity, percentage of students paying student loan payments, et cetera, et cetera. Most of that information is offered by at least Towson University. I can't speak of other schools, but a lot of what they are requiring schools to tell us, Towson does already present. So I think for at least Towson students that are current, this may not be the most important bill to them.
Was that a formal recommendation?
Yes.
Okay, does anyone accept that recommendation? Senator Washington Miller?
I accept.
Okay, is there a second? Senator Maddox?
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion on the motion? Justice McNeil?
I agree because simple research can tell you a lot of things. So requiring that is kind of, we have other things that are kind of more important in my opinion.
Okay. Anyone else wishes to comment on this bill before we vote? Yes, Vice President Triscosco.
I'm not gonna lie, right before Olivia made that recommendation, I was gonna make that recommendation. So I agree. Again, it's still very important. Towson is relatively upfront in terms of all of that, in terms of accessibility. I still think that it's a great bill, but I agree it might be a little bit better to have other bills on the legislative slate for the day of Tiger Pride Day that will kind of be a little bit more catered to students specifically at Towson.
Anyone else wishes to add on to the conversation? If not, we'll now move into a vote to strike Bill HB 0132. All those in favor? Opposed or abstaining? Okay, that the motion passes. And we can strike the bill. Chief of Staff Ambush.
Sorry, I have another strike. Sorry, just to keep us moving, I have multiple strikes going on. So the next recommendation I do is that we strike H Bill 0141, Equity in the Transportation Sector Guideline and Analysis. Basically what this bill does, it basically every time there's a new transportation project, it just has to go through like an equity survey to make sure that the transportation project is not harmfully impacting different communities, specifically marginalized communities. Again, I think this is one of those bills that are really, really important, but may not necessarily impact Towson students as much currently.
Does anyone accept that recommendation? Senator Washington. Is there a second? Senator Mackey? Okay, is there any discussion on this bill? Treasurer Colquitt?
I just want to say, as the person that submitted this bill, I agree to strike it.
Anyone wishes to comment on this bill before we proceed into a vote? Chief Justice Richard Olson. Granted. Okay. If there are no more comments, concerns about Bill HB 0141, we'll now move into a vote to strike it. All those in favor? Opposed or abstaining? Cool, that the motion passes and we can strike the bill. Vice President Triscosco.
Thank you. Just as an update, right now we have, and just for reference, the two bills that are on the other page, I'm just referring to as 14 and 15 at the moment. 14 was the one that replaced 4, but currently we have 10 bills. So just to keep that in mind, we do have to cut down at least 4, or I believe we have 10. Yeah, we have 10 bills. So just, we need to strike down at least 4 more, just to keep the conversation rolling.
Senator Maddox?
I request that we remove SB 0411 Future Act. Because a lot of what it covers is already covered by, like people have already said, HB 071, climate crisis and climate.
What number is that bill?
SB 0471.
Okay, you're making the recommendation, or you're moving. You don't have to, you can make the motion, yeah. Okay, is there a second? Senator Mackey? Okay, is there any discussion on this? Director Edwards?
So, I agree with Senator Maddox, not only for the reason that he suggested, because of, Bill 0171, but also we passed the Future Act at Towson, several times before, twice, I believe, once, 2 years ago, when we passed it in our SGA and it moved to Towson's administration and nothing was done with it. And then, just a couple of weeks ago before break, we passed, a similar Future Act bill again. So if Towson didn't approve it the first time, I don't think that the state of Maryland will. Not to say that this bill isn't important, but like I've said previously, we only have 5 or 6 bills, so I would like to push for a bill that I actually think will be passed.
Senator Maddox?
Also, just going off of what you said, back to my point of the HB 071, that bill does require Maryland to have a point to be negative in their carbon neutrality in 2040. That also means Maryland colleges. So I feel like just a college focused bill is not really relevant when the whole state is requiring, which would eventually mean colleges.
Director Rodriguez?
So I just have one quick question. If we strike Senate Bill 0471, does that mean Senate Bill 0135 and Senate Bill 0152 would have to pass instead of the last 2 remaining Senate bills?
Yeah, can you
The question one more time, please.
If we remove Senate Bill 0471, does that mean we would have to pass Senate Bill 0135 and Senate Bill 0152, considering they're the last 2 Senate bills needed?
Okay.
Then I think we should put that in consideration with this bill.
Anyone, Chief Staff Analyst?
Since we have to talk about the number of Senate bills, I would personally, I don't think I would support this resolution, this motion, because I think the 2 other Senate bills are much stronger, one of them being the environmental bill. And I think that Senate Bill 0135 and H Bill 0596, the constitutional amendment, I think builds the basis for future legislation that I think can be much stronger than even the Future Act proposes.
Director Johnstone?
One day we'll put that.
Hello? Maybe not. Okay, so just
Do not get close to each other, please. Just one.
All right, are we good? Cool, we're good. So, to comment on the comments made by Director Edwards, the Climate Neutrality Act that was passed last semester through the SGA is still in the works. We are currently just waiting on a date to talk about it with the Academic Senate and then to go to the Legislative Senate and get it passed there. Also, this bill focuses a bit on climate justice, which is something that isn't really talked a lot when we talk about climate change. It goes into providing resources for people who are most impacted by climate change, such as minorities, Black and brown folks living in southern Baltimore with Fresco, all those sorts. So I recommend that the Senate does not strike this bill, and we go into consideration of striking something else.
Justice McKee.
I agree with, Ron Stone. I think out of all the, environmental bills, I think this is the most important one because, I've been in Baltimore. It's not good. So I think having a justice aspect of it is very important.
Vice Chair Truskowski.
I just have a clarification on the motion. Was it to, or excuse me, point of clarification. Point of information. It's been a brief. Just to reiterate, we are talking about striking the Future Act bill, correct? Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion on this? Please, Treasurer Colbert.
I agree with Senator Maddox's recommendation to strike the legislation. I think based on the arguments already made by Senator Maddox and Director Edwards, this bill's been seen before by the General Assembly, and I would just caution against us supporting with this bill and the other bill. That would mean a third of our bills would be supporting legislation that's failed in the past, and also are both environmental bills, and I think that we can focus on a wide range of other issues.
Any more comments, concerns before we vote on this recommendation? Yes.
I'd just like to make the point that I think it's a good idea to continue to support the Future Act, only because it is a student-specific bill, and I think the SBA could benefit from sending that, making an opinion to, or sending it as an opinion that is within the SBA. We are in support of this act, and that it's going to specifically help students who are impacted by this, because with the way things are going, and hopefully with the way this country is going, I do think that things like carbon neutrality are going to continuously come up. So I think if we support a bill, or you guys support if you guys support a bill that is going to be more student specific, I think it's sending more message. And also, if you continue to harass the legislative body, it will not go unnoticed. Thank you.
Senator Maddox.
I think Towson has a duty as a university member to not just help itself, but help its surrounding community. Like Towson isn't just by itself, it's not in its own little bubble. If we make our legislation only about students and only about us, how does that look? You know, I feel like our bill should have an ultimate goal of helping not just us, but our surrounding community. That's one like Baltimore, you know, there's something.
Well, Senator Maddox, I actually agree with you, but I think that's exactly why we should be supporting environmentally based bills, because those are the things that are going to help the surrounding community where pollution can be a big problem.
Thank you. Director Johnson.
Yeah, I just kind of want to point out that this bill, my apologies, the Climate Crisis and Environmental Justice Act is a very radical bill. And while I may be in support of it, the legislature as a whole, if they didn't really pass the Future Act last year, which is less radical than this was at this point, then it seems almost impractical that a bill passed. Unfortunately, I mean, we can advocate for both at the same time. I don't think that the argument that we can't have a single issue that we're focusing on is a little misguided, because climate change is the issue that impacts everyone. It is the issue that stems a lot of other issues from it. It stems injustices that continue to rise up our crime rates and our prison, my apologies, and the incarceration of people who commit those crimes because they're in poor areas that are affected by climate change. So I think it would be best to make, well, first of all, deny this, and to consider adding more than just one climate justice change bill into our legislature.
Vice President Truskowski.
I'd like to make it known that at the moment we have 3 bills on here. We do have to get down to 5 or 6. There are typically anywhere between, I believe, 100 to 300 students that attend Tiger Pride Day. I believe that it is important. I don't think that any of these bills, again, are not important. However, I do think that it may benefit students more to see a broad range of different bills that impact different portions of the community. That way, when people see a bill that they really connect with, not saying that environmental bills are not, something that many people do connect with and are impacted with, just as Director Johnstone said. But I do think for this specific event, it may be more beneficial, not specifically saying that I am or am not in support of striking this particular, the Future Act. But I do think that it would be a little bit difficult to have half or over half of the bills centered on only one specific topic for a day that is supposed to be kind of very much kind of broad range for many students to talk about many different topics and kind of learn about many different topics within the legislature and how the legislature handles those different topics and kind of what that looks like. So that's just my personal view. We do have 3 climate bills on here right now. I think it'd be great to have 2. It would be great to have any of them. If we could do all of these bills, I know we all would. But I just think that that's something really important to keep in mind is just the audience that this is going to hit and those conversations. Again, not saying they're not important, but I do think that it would be more beneficial to have a broader range of topics on this legislative slate. That way more students are able to talk about issues that they are specifically, not saying everyone is impacted by it, but kind of issues that they are very passionate about in a more overarching sense. Thank you, Senator Washington. Okay, is there a second? Senator Maddox. Okay, we'll now move into a vote to strike Bill SB 0471. All those in favor? Are abstaining? Okay, with that, the motion passes and we will strike this bill. Director Eagle? Francis? Director Johnson?
I'd like to move that we strike House Bill 0530.
House Bill, can you repeat it one time?
0530.
0530. Okay, you're moving that we strike that one, okay? Does anyone accept that recommendation? Someone has to accept, but you don't have to say you don't want to. Senator Maddox? Okay, is there a second? Okay, if not, then the recommendation fails. Okay, President DeVoe. This is a little bit, Chief of Staff Ambush had to leave for class, so I wanted to share his point that I agree with relatively. So this bill that we're talking about in regards to HBCUs is fairly, I'm sorry. You're right, we didn't. I'll wait, my bad. Go ahead. Sorry. Okay, we can keep going. Is there a bill someone wishes to strike on the agenda? President DeVoe? Sorry, so I'll repeat what I was gonna say, which was this bill, in regards to HBCUs, has fairly similar implications, for Black students, as House Bill 0159, Economic Justice and Racial Reconciliation Act. So you could consider that, as we were discussing earlier, how there's certain similar themes that are coming up. So just for a diverse range of issues, but that's just something to think about. But it's not a formal recommendation, but I just wanted you all to look for similar themes. And then Chief of Staff Ambush did raise potentially striking House Bill 0111. But those aren't formal recommendations, but just highlighting those 2, 3.
Vice President Triscoska.
I just want to make it known that number 10 will have to be on the agenda, as well as number 12, because those are our last two Senate bills. So we now have 7, which we will have to get down to 3 or 4. So keep that in mind as we kind of proceed forward. Those 2 bills, we can still discuss them, but we do need them as Senate bills to be on this slate.
Thank you for that clarification. So President DeVoe, do you wish to make the recommendation on behalf of Chief of Staff Ambush?
I recommend on behalf of Chief of Staff Ambush to strike number 5, House Bill 0111, action to collect a private education loan required document.
Does anyone accept the recommendation? Senator Maddox? Is there a second? Senator Mackey?
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Okay, now the floor is open to discussion. Okay. So the floor is open to discussion on Bill HB 0111. So, is there any discussion, comments, concerns on this bill before we vote on the recommendation to strike it? Okay, discussion is carried along. Vice President Triscoska.
Just to reiterate,
Yes, discussion is encouraged if you would like to talk about it.
but we were tied with, excuse me, very far. What President DeVoe brought up earlier, there are some reoccurring themes. So for example, if we are striking this bill, the one that we do have to keep, number 12, does also involve transcripts and not allowing universities to withhold transcript, or universities or institutions of higher education to withhold transcripts related to student debt or anything like that. And this one is kind of in relation to loans. So also just keep that in mind.
Okay. Any more discussion on this before we proceed to vote? Director Johnstone?
This is more like asking for clarification if anyone knows it. But on the website, it says that loan collectors have to provide certain information in a certain communication. And like, is there any specification on that, or is it just like kind of like verbatim?
Vice President Triscoska?
I'm not sure of the exact wording of the bills, but I do believe that it places more restrictions and more regulations in terms of what they have to provide and what that communication means in terms of directly contacting the people as well as the loan offices and going through all of that. So I believe it's just to kind of enforce more strict policies on them. I apologize. I hope that helped a little bit.
Any more discussion? If not, we'll now move into a vote to strike HB 0111. All those in favor? Opposed or abstaining? That the motion passes and striking is the
President DeVoe. I'm not gonna make a recommendation to not censor or like set a time frame, but just be mindful of concision when speaking. Try to get directly to your point in a timely manner, just so we can get through everything. I want to hear all your wonderful ideas, we all do, but try to just be concise in conveying that.
So just for clarification, we said that the Senate bills,
Number 5.
no, I was saying the Senate bills that are like automatically passing or 10 and 12. Yeah, okay, so just to keep that in mind, 10 and 12 are already like good to go. Okay. Do we have any more bills we would like to strike on the agenda? Director Ramos, thank you. Hello?
I just have a recommendation to at least bring up discussion about HB 0530 because like President DeVoe mentioned, it is very similar to HB 0159. So I should think we should have a discussion about it to see why it's like so preferred and if we want to keep that one over HB 019. So I recommend we have a discussion about that bill at least.
Does anyone accept that recommendation? Senator Maddox? Okay, is there a second? Senator Hayes? Yeah. Okay, so you can retract that, recommendation you made, since this is just for discussion, and, make a motion to strike make a recommendation to strike whichever one you do not want on there, so we can discuss it, if that makes sense. If that's a better way to do it. And more efficient.
To make into a motion for one.
So, yeah, you can retract the one you just made and then remake a motion, a recommendation to strike whichever one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll track that and I'll make a motion to strike, I'll do HB 0530.
A recommendation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and which one was it? HB?
0530.
0530.
Okay, number 6. Okay, great. Okay, does anyone accept the recommendation? Senator Maddox? Is there a second? Senator Washington Mara? Okay, is there any discussion? Yes, HB4.
Hi, I'm just reading about both of the House bills, and I'm just gonna read like a little snippet from each. So for House Bill 0530, which is the one being proposed to strike, it says requiring the USM to contract with an independent consultant to study disparities between historically Black colleges and universities in the state and the university system in Maryland and their continued relationship. So it's basically just a study, as Olivier was saying, and then for Chief of Staff Ambush. And then for the other one, House Bill 0159, which is similar, it says establishing the Commission for Economic Justice and Reconciliation to study racial disparities in wealth and resources as a result of tax laws and system in place in the state from the Reconstruction era through the enactment of the Federal Civil Rights Act of 1964, requiring the commission to make recommendations relating to compensation of the state's African-American communities for the racial disparities identified. So at least in my opinion, I think House Bill 0159 definitely goes more into action of what they would do when identified the racial disparities versus the other one, which does identify racial disparities, but it's more amongst students rather than the full community.
Senator Maddox?
Well, like Jessica said, I do agree that both of them are great. And I do recognize that Maryland's HBCUs should be more nationally known and have more like standing academically. I do think that HB 0159, or the Economic Justice and Racial Reconciliation Act, has more of a profound impact on the community, not just students, but like people who have lived through it and who families that have been in Maryland for decades and centuries, you know. So I do think that is much more powerful and profound.
While I understand the comparisons that are being made between those two bills, I just want to remind everyone that we're currently discussing the recommendation that was made to strike the HB 0530. So to kind of keep the conversation centered on that. But we can keep going. Treasurer Colquitt.
All right, again, I guess I can kind of speak to this bill a bit more, again, as a person that submitted this one. I think HB 0530, it would do a lot more for us in terms of standing with our fellow institutions as an ally. Really something that we've done this year, like standing with Goucher, standing with Howard, and bringing that more locally. As some of you may be aware, Maryland HBCUs just settled a $577 million lawsuit with the state over severely being underfunded for decades and kind of just being ignored. So this bill addresses that. and kind of studies what within the USM and the state allowed that to happen, and then kind of remedying that issue, and making recommendations to the General Assembly to remedy that. So I would not support striking this bill, but as you know,
Justice McNeil?
I wouldn't support striking this bill because I feel as if education along with action, they kind of go hand in hand, and education is almost more important. So, and I also feel that standing with our fellow schools is important as well, and we should be trying to push that.
Director Edwards?
So yeah, I would not support striking this bill either, just for the simple fact of what Treasurer Coco said and what Justice Munoz said. And then just to piggyback up more, research is just the first step to trying to create different changes and stuff like that. You need to research before you can actually create something sustainable. So I think that this bill is the first step of many bills to come down the road, and we need to support it in the beginning phases.
Director Ramos?
Okay, I have a question about HB 0159, because when I was reading it, it was saying about making recommendations for for future legislation. So in my head, I feel like maybe we should pass that one, because if that did get passed, they could then mention for future legislation, bringing back HB 0530, since that would help a lot of Black communities. So that's why I do believe that we should go forward with that bill and strike HB 0530 with the hopes of that if that one does get passed, it could then bring back this bill and the issues associated with it.
President DeVoe?
Okay. I'm sorry, I just wanted to get my thoughts together. So for HB 0530, in regards to HBCUs, the language says requiring the University of Maryland to report, wait, does that mean system? I think a word's missing. To report. So the requirement after doing the study is to report these disparities versus House Bill 0159 requiring to make recommendations relating to compensation and more actionable steps. So while I do see the value in the SGA at Towson showing that we are accomplices and advocates and allies for our, our siblings at HBCUs, I do want us to think about like more than just like symbolic allyship and something that could actually go forth and help them further. But I'm not leaning one way or the other. I just want to look at the language of the bill and what it's actually going to do, because clearly we know in this country, just knowing about something doesn't, people in positions of power know there's a problem. Like, we're not the only ones that know there's a problem. So I feel like they may, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to do anything.
Vice President Costa?
Just to reiterate a point, any bills that are not put on this agenda, can't have other events, can't have letter writing campaigns, can continue to be publicized and supported by Towson University. Unfortunately, actually, but we do need to strike 2 more bills. So just keeping that in mind through all of this conversation, at least 2 more. Because if we have 8, so if we strike at least 2 more, we'll have 6. We strike 3, we'll have 5.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on this recommendation to strike bill HB 0530? Okay, if there is no more discussion, we'll now move into a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Or abstaining? Okay, with that, the motion passes and we'll strike. President DeVoe?
I'm sorry, I really am. I'm just gonna say this. So I don't want you all to feel like me saying something means you have to vote a certain way. And I know there's some like newer senators, so I just want to put that out there. If you feel strongly about the bill and like something I said swayed you in any way, please speak up. I don't mean to do that. So I just want to put that out there. But if not, then it's fine. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Chief Justice Tom Olson.
Yeah, I just wanted to, someone from the executive board to sort of let us know which bills are still up.
Correct.
Yeah, Vice President Scott can do that.
Okay, so I'm again just gonna go on the numbers to the left. So we have number 2, we have number 7, we have number 9, 10, 11, 12. And then we have the second bill that Director Johnstone recommended, which on mine, I just have it marked as 15. So currently, in order to do, reach our legislative number that we need to strike at least one more.
Which bill? Strike? Of the agenda? Or the resolution?
Which computer is projecting that?
Senator Elam?
I moved them to strike House Bill 0025, so we can see.
0025. Okay. Is there a second? Senator Washington Mara? Okay, is there any discussion? Senator Washington
I would actually argue that the bill is actually very important in rehabilitating other inmates because I feel like I had that would do something like this would actually be very beneficial to America because other countries have a lot better rehabilitation rates for prisoners. I think this act would also kind of put us in a better position for prisoners to be able to get better jobs and come back into society. So I think it's actually pretty relevant.
Thank you. Senator Elam?
It is important, but I also argue, like, I'm not trying to sound bad, but Tiger Pride Day, we might have what, like 20 minutes to talk with people, right? So wouldn't this be something we could like make an event or something that we really want to spread the word about or make more serious? I just think like if we have like 6 bills, we're gonna like talk about that really quick. They might forget, it might not be as serious. So that could just be another event that we hold or like writing a letter.
Senator Madden?
I don't understand why we can't do both for advocated at Tiger Pride Day and advocated as an event. You know, doing both would strengthen our point. And as I said before right now, you know, Maryland still, especially in Baltimore, there's still from Martin O'Malley, he started the frisk on stop and frisk really in Baltimore, and that incarcerated literal hundreds of thousands of Black men in just in Baltimore alone. You know, I really do think, and many of them are still incarcerated. I really do think that a bill like this could help push and help, you know, help those people when they do eventually come out, hopefully, you know, sooner rather than later. Hopefully get them back on their feet, help them get back into the workforce, help them, you know, back into, you know, back into, just help them back into life, yeah.
Yeah, so I agree with Senator Maddox, and I think in the greater scale of, and I think on the greater scale of transferring away from prisons as a system to lock people up, rehabilitation and education is the first step needed. And making sure that those prisoners know their rights, they know what they're, you know, what they should be getting as an individual in this country. And I think this is only the first step towards a greater goal, but I think it's one that we really, really, really need to push.
Dr. Rama?
Yeah, I agree with everything that everyone said. And also it is an education bill and this would advocate for a lot of students, especially since, like they all mentioned, rehabilitation in America is really rough for a lot of prisoners, which is why when they get out, most of them, they just go back to a life of crime because it's so difficult to be able to get the education. So I feel like this is very important for us to represent, to advocate that Towson wants these people to come and be able to get back into society and that we're going to help them throughout that. So I think it is very important that as Towson, we should advocate for it.
Director Deanna?
Yeah, I definitely agree with what everyone else is saying, especially with education already having its hand in the prison pipeline, like the school prison pipeline. I feel like this is very important. Like, we can argue that literally all of these bills everything, but I feel like there's specifically, that like, I feel like you know, be like a lot of work with, and we can like very much advocate for both on and off, like the school legislators and stuff like that, so I really feel like we can, like,
Questions, Adenabel?
I agree that we shouldn't strike this bill because this will really help focus on what the prison is supposed to do. The prison is supposed to rehabilitate criminals back into society, not just punish them and expect them to come back. So I really do feel like this bill will help a lot of communities and a lot of people in mainland and then people spread all over America.
A second. Under watch your back. We'll now move into a vote on bill HB 0025, which was a recommendation to strike the bill, just for clarification. All those in favor? Opposed? Or abstaining? Okay, with that, it does not, the motion fail and the bill remains. Yes, Director Johnson.
I motion that we strike the,
You can make a recommendation, not a motion.
I would like to make a recommendation that we strike cultural number 11.
Okay. Is there, does anyone accept that recommendation? Senator Maddox? Okay, is there a second? Senator Mackey? Okay, is there any discussion on this recommendation to strike bill HB 0255? Director Johnston?
Okay, so if I can just clarify why I think we should be striking this bill. It is obviously a really good bill. It's great, but the rest of the bills focus on bigger issues. They focus on justice. They focus on the environment. They focus on climate change. And to have a bill in there about internships seems a bit too greedy. I think. I mean,
I just would like to compliment you, Professor, cautious of the words that we're using.
of course, yeah. My apologies. I don't mean to say greedy. I mean to say that the other bills focus on greater, bigger issues that we can tackle as a community and as a student government association. That's all.
Director Eagle?
So I do want to clarify that we are the Student Government Association, and our first duty is to represent the students. Not only does that bill directly represent the students, but because it is a smaller bill, there is a more likely chance that it could be passed. Larger bills like justice and crime, those are things that even the US is still trying to figure out. So smaller bills like that impact us the most, I feel like those are the most important. So I disagree with striking HB 02.
Senator Eagle?
I agree with Director Eagle. I think also when we talk about we want people of color and other marginalized groups to have opportunities, part of the opportunities is to have the chance to have internships and they can get compensated for it. A lot of times people might feel like, oh, I have to do like a STEM career or something where it might not be my passion, but I need to get paid, I need money. So this just gives them the opportunity to focus on what they love while not being taken advantage of, because a lot of times they get unpaid internships. I had an unpaid internship, but I had parents that could support me. If I didn't have parents that could support me, then I wouldn't have been able to have that opportunity. I wouldn't be able to get credit for school. So this is like really important for people.
Director DMA?
Oh, yeah. So I feel like, yes, we do have like all these bills that like are bigger or like more general, but I feel like having the balance of the general and specific topics is what will make us make of an impact at High Day. I don't necessarily feel like all of our issues or all of the things that we're like putting in this like bill list should be all the big ones. We are, as director said, we are the Student Government Association. we love these big issues, we love to tackle them, but we also have our own specific issues as students, and it doesn't mean that it's not as important as other issues.
AG Kapoor?
I think something also important to remember is that it does seem like Tiger Pride Day is predominantly just SGA, but we're not going to be the only students there. Registration is open to all students. And imagine if a student who had this recent struggle or any one of these recent struggles like came into this day and then saw like, oh, SGA voted to advocate for me, like how would they feel? And when talking about this bill, like specifically, like even Senator Egan said, like this is a very personal issue to like a lot of students in or out of SGA.
I also would like to add in terms of like thinking about these broad nebulous ideas about justice and access and things like that, internships and jobs are about access and equity. And if you think about like Dr. King, the face of justice, he advocated for people to get jobs. So I feel like just because it doesn't have the word, a pretty word like equity or justice or something like that, that doesn't necessarily mean it's not about community uplift, but just something to think about.
Justice McNeil?
I don't suggest we strike this bill because it kind of hits home, and I think it will hit home for a lot of other students. Also have a question. Can we recommend to strike a previous bill?
Oh, yeah, we don't vote to keep those, so, yeah, we can like strike after we do this one.
Okay,
You
great.
can recommend, you can make that recommendation after we go over this bill. Yep, Director Johnstone?
Can I retract my recommendation?
Sure. Okay, Justin McNeil, did you wish to make a recommendation?
I recommend that we strike the rehabilitation and education for all prisoners.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
Okay,
no, you're good.
can you, say the bill, like, number, please?
I apologize.
You're
I
good.
recommend we strike HB 0025.
Okay. Okay, does anyone accept that recommendation? Senator Hayes? Okay, is there a second? Senator Egan?
I second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Justice McNeil?
I'm all for educating other people for rehabilitation and education and like taking down the privatized prisons and all of that, but I think we can kind of group that into a racial thing, and then I think we can push for a more hitting home thing for the transcripts.
Vice President Triscosca?
I'm going to somewhat disagree. We've had a lot of discussions within SGA about prisons, specifically about prison labor and making furniture. And unfortunately, we were kind of told that we were stuck and that we couldn't really do anything about that and about helping that. So I think that this would be amazing. I would really encourage, again, everybody, please take my words with a grain of salt. Because you know what you are going to prioritize, and I fully trust everyone here to make those decisions. But I just think that it would be a really great way to support prisoners and to give them more opportunities, as we kind of discussed before, and just in terms of life after, or even within prison, being able to work towards something, be able to feel like you have a goal and you're able to have these opportunities. Personally, I would rather see a different bill go. I know that we do still have some, we only have one topic that's kind of reoccurring on the slate at the moment, and those are just the climate bills, but unfortunately, we are not able to remove numbers 10 or 12 because those are the Senate bills. So I'd also like that to be kept in mind for this motion. Those two bills have to stay on the slate during this. But personally, I'm very much in support of it because I think it would really grant us that opportunity to support people that are incarcerated.
Senator Maddox?
No, I completely agree with what Kate said, kind of responding to what Justice McNeil said. Prisons don't just affect, Black people. We're in the state of Maryland. There's prisons affect mostly the lower income class. That can include people in Western Maryland, And this isn't just like a one race problem. This is a complete board problem. Prisons are horrible for everybody. They disproportionately affect Black people. Don't get me wrong, but they are horrible for everybody. And I think a bill to help fix that can be a benefit for the entire community because it's just how many lives have been ruined by people going to prison, families broken up. I feel like this bill is really impactful, really strong and powerful.
Justice McNeil?
I appreciate all of you guys' comments, and I agree to a certain extent to what you all are saying. But what I was saying was, in terms of one of the bills that we already decided not to strike was the Economic Justice and Racial Reconciliation Act. We can kind of bring that issue up into economic justice because prisoners don't have a opportunity to they're discriminated upon as soon as they get released, so they don't have an opportunity to make money, to make a living. So I feel like we could have brought that up with that bill that we're trying to pass, and then also push for the I think it was the transcription or not the transcription, the internship one. So we kind of hit both of them, and then I think one of the senators said before we can have another deep SGA related group or something that we can do and try to push for that. But that's just my 2 cents.
Well, I appreciate the robust conversation. It is now 7:03. So, can this move to Thursday or?
We already established that this was going to go over time.
Oh, I didn't.
And Vice President Scott can add more comments to that.
So what we can do is because it's 7:03, we can decide to let everybody other than the Senate go. That is what has been done in past sessions. With that being said, I'm not sure if everyone would like to, but that can be something that we can do, but the Senate does need to vote on the final slate today. And we do only have one more bill that we need to strike in order to get to 6.
Yes, Mark.
Because I was reading and skimming the brief bill, I think one thing that I don't know if everybody's aware of is part of the brief bill, the prison one is also discussing that it allows for provisions for the Pell Grant for people who are released from prison. I don't know if everybody knows what a Pell Grant is. Why it's in that topic. So I feel like there's part of the bill that is maybe people aren't aware of. And now.
Thank you for that. Treasurer Colbert.
Yeah, just really quickly, I'd like to echo what Margaret just said. I think it's a really good bill, and I think it does completely different things than the other bill that Justice McNeil mentioned. I think when you think about imprisoned persons, they experience life in a completely different way than we do. So even if that bill does pass, none of the provisions would apply to them. They wouldn't receive any type of reparations or anything like that. So.
Okay, any further discussion? Senator Mackey? Is there a second? Senator Maddox? Okay, we'll now vote on this recommendation that was made to strike Bill HB 0025. All those in favor to strike the bill? Opposed? Or abstaining? Okay, that the motion passes, and actually, I'm so sorry, the motion fails and the bill will not be struck off the agenda. Yes, Treasurer Colco.
Yes, I'd like to recommend that the Senate strike House Bill 0596, the Maryland Environmental Human Rights Amendment. Just because I think for the sake of moving on and for the sake of having a diverse list of legislation that we're advocating for, this would do that. Also, this bill has been brought up in the General Assembly time and time again. And again, I wouldn't want to waste one of our 6 pieces of legislation on something that legislators have shown in the past not really favorable. Not to say that we shouldn't support it, that's what we believe, but there are other ways to support it, other than using our title private legislation to advocate for that. And further, 2 out of the other remaining bills already address things in the same realm.
Okay, does anyone accept that recommendation? Senator Watchman, is there a second? Senator Maddox? Okay, is there any discussion on this recommendation to strike Bill HB 0596? Justice Adenova.
I agree with Treasurer Colquitt because this bill, it sounds very nice. It is amazing. But at the same time, we have government agency that whose force it is to provide quality water, quality air, and quality food, and keep our environment safe, clean, and sound. So this bill is very nice. I do believe that the government is already providing those resources, perhaps not the greatest, but it is making it happen. So that's why I support we should strike it.
Okay, any more comments on this bill? Director Johnston?
So I would recommend that we do not strike this bill. I think that it is a climate justice bill and not a climate change bill. There's something in the bill that states that we have to be carbon neutral or carbon negative by a certain time. Instead, it states that all people living in Maryland have guaranteed unalienable rights to clean water, air, food, and environment. And obviously that is a ginormous issue, especially in our area where a lot of poor people do not have those rights and the access to clean food, clean air, clean water. Excuse me. So I believe that we should deny it. I think they're separable enough to the point where we shouldn't just be saying like, oh, there's 2 climate change bills. There's a climate change bill and a climate justice bill. They both have climate in it, but they're not really the same. So I believe that that is enough separation to, keep them in.
Dr. Edwards?
So, like I was saying before, I agree with Colquitt. As far as just for the simple fact that we've already tried to pass this bill or pass a bill similar to this, and it hasn't worked. And then we already have 2 other bills relating to legislation, and we only have 6 bills as whole. So we shouldn't harp on the same points repeatedly. That's all.
Anyone else wish to add to this discussion we're having? Director Johnston?
Yeah, so I agree that has been going through again and again and again. Well, really only like twice, I believe. But with that being said, you do not get through radical changes like an amendment to a constitution on the first try. It takes chances and times, and you have to do things again and again and again. So I ask that we reconsider to deny this strike.
Senator Washington. Okay, is there a second? Senator Maddox? Okay, we can now move to vote we can now vote on the motion, the recommendation that was made to strike HB 0596. All those in favor to strike it? Opposed or abstaining? Okay, that the motion passes and we can strike this. With that being said, I believe that was the last bill that was needed to strike. Yes, Vice President Truskowska.
I just wanted to read through the bills that were confirmed. I also wanted to note, all of these bills were incredible. All of these discussions were incredible. Thank you. Seriously, you all were amazing, all of them. But to reiterate, we have 6 bills as our final list. We have, and again, I'm just gonna go down the side. We have number 2, 7, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Does anybody need me to repeat that? Any clarification? Repeat it? Yeah. So we've got 2, oh, sorry, hold on one second. Yeah, we got 2, 7, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Of course.
Okay, with that being said, are there any motions on, actually, we need to vote on the resolution as a whole, I believe, to pass all these changes and the stuff we accepted, yeah, so is there any further discussion on this resolution as a whole? Okay, if not, we'll now move into a vote on, actually, we need somebody to move to vote on resolution. No, we were making recommendations or whatever, but, Senator, what you want to ask? Okay, is there a second? Senator Maddox? Okay, is there any last discussion on this resolution? Okay, if not, we'll now vote on resolution number 27 as a whole. All those in favor? Opposed or abstaining? Great, that the motion passes and resolution 27 has passed. Yay, love to see it. Okay, with that being said, are there any announcements? Vice President Truskowska.
Just as a reminder, we do a special session on Thursday. I'm really looking forward to seeing you all there. It will be casual. You don't have to come dressed up or anything. So I'll see you all there. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience, your consistent efforts. Again, incredible bills, incredible discussion. I'm really looking forward to all the other events that spiral off the Tiger Pride Day and continue to just advocate and continue pushing for our community. Because you guys did a great job. And obviously, this would not have gone as long as it did if we didn't care about what we were doing, what we were talking about, and the whole nine. So kudos to you guys, you did phenomenal. Thank you.
Is there any motion on the floor? Senator Maddox? Is there a second? Senator Mackey? Okay, is there any discussion? If not, we'll now vote to adjourn. All those in favor? Opposed or abstaining? Great, with that, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Like, I know, right? No.